Hey y'all, and happy March. I hope wherever you are in the Northern Hemisphere that spring is starting to pop, that warmer temperatures are headed your way, and that sunnier days are ahead. I first want to mention that my starting number has changed, and it's not because I bought a book. Well, it's kind of because I bought a book. It was a pre-order, and I did not include it in my spreadsheet. I don't know how I forgot about Boy with Accidental Dinosaur, but it arrived on Tuesday, and I went to my spreadsheet to double check. I went to Libib to add it, and I realized that it wasn't in my spreadsheet. So my actual starting number for February is 348 books. I'm a little sad about it. I'm a little mad at myself. I'm not so much sad, but I'm a little disappointed in myself because I was feeling really good about that 347, but we're back to 348 with this guy. I have finished 3 physical TBR books. They are in a series. I have started the Paladin series. So we have Grace, Strength, and Hope here. I gave them all 5 stars. We're gonna get that right out of the way. The thing is, I am now obsessed. I am so happy to be back in the world of the White Rat. I've previously only read Sword Heart, so I'm not deep in the world, and I think I've done things well out of order, but these have brought me so much joy and so much pleasure in reading them that I don't care what order I started them in. I don't care what order I finished them in. I am so happy to have started this series, but I'm also very hesitant for it to be over. So if you couldn't tell, I could go on and on and on about these books, and we're not here to do that. If you guys want to have a separate conversation, DM me. I would love to talk to somebody about them. But I'm going to try and be concise and just tell you what these books are about in a glimpse. First up is Paladin's Grace. I love these covers. These are the UK covers, and they do have little bits and bobs that I find to be Easter egg-ish on the cover. Oh, also, let's not forget Tab. He's a civet, and he is Grace's pet, for lack of a better word. Stephen and Grace are our main characters. Stephen is a broken paladin. His god has died, I think 3 years before the events in this book. And we don't know why the god died or how the god died necessarily, but it did send all of his paladins into a frenzy, and only 7 of them are left, Stephen being one of them. Grace is a perfumer, and these two meet because while Grace was foraging for some ingredients for her perfumes, she happened to be doing it in a cemetery. And on her way out, she's accosted by some ruffians from another sect, we'll say, and she runs into Stephen seeking some help. He's on the streets because he's kind of working as a bodyguard now in his capacity as a paladin with no god. And he's on his way back from escorting this healer around a bad part of town when he runs into Grace. To disguise her and to have these ruffians move along, they pretend to be in an amorous embrace, which is very funny. It's absolutely a hilarious scene. And, you know, they move along. Stephen is very chivalrous. He is as sweet as can be. He knits socks and stuff for everybody. He's adorable. He decides to walk Grace home to make sure she gets there safely. And the two have kind of an instant connection. I wouldn't call it insta-love or anything like that, but there is interest and there is like a sense of understanding between the two of them, but they're both hesitant. They both have their hangups. Grace is on the run from a previous relationship and doesn't really want to get involved with anyone else. Stephen is like, I'm a berserker. I'm not safe to be around. I don't deserve to be in a relationship. So the two, like they're so sweet, but they have their hangups. Grace tells her best friend, who's also her landlord and lives in the same building as her, about the encounter. Stephen tells his paladin brothers about the encounter. And through the scheming measures of everyone, they end up in the same place again. They're at this like royal event. Stephen is working, Grace is bringing a perfume to this prince, and unfortunately these two witness an assassination attempt where the would-be assassin dies. And so this plunges them into this really crazy, strange investigation about what is going on, the royal deceit behind this assassination attempt. And also, as a side note, Stephen is concerned about some bodies and heads that are showing up, not attached to each other around town. No one else seems to be too concerned, but Stephen has always got this killer in the back of his mind when Grace is walking home by herself at night especially. So these two are plunged into like multiple investigations. They're thrown together a lot throughout the book. And while Steven thinks Grace is not interested in her, and Grace thinks Steven is actually interested in her best friend. They do eventually come together. It's very sweet. It's very endearing. I really like these characters. I like that they come to a decision about their relationship together. I like that Grace doesn't necessarily need Steven for like her place in society or to take care of her monetarily. She has her own career, she has her own business, but she really truly loves him and wants the companionship more than anything. So you very much are a couple of equals, and I really, really enjoy that. It's a very rewarding read, and I would highly recommend. Next up is Strength, Paladin Strength, where we have Istvan and Clara. Istvan is on the hunt for, remember those heads that were showing up without bodies and bodies without heads? Istvan is under the ruse of escorting a merchant. He is actually on the hunt. So he's on the road. Steven meets Clara while he's on this quest. She is on a journey of her own to find her kidnapped sisters. She is a nun, and her sisters and herself were actually stolen, kidnapped from their convent. And what happened was that Clara was so sick that the captors dumped her in a ditch because they thought she was going to die. So they just dumped her and kept moving. But Clara did not die. She was sort of rescued by these locals in the area and brought back to health. And like I said, her path crosses with Istvan's, and their quests sort of collide and come together, and they help each other on their journeys. And it's just, again, like a very rewarding read. Clara has a deep, dark secret that she doesn't want anyone to know. And she is afraid that if Istvan finds out about her secret, that it could ruin their budding friendship / maybe romance that they have building. Everything culminates in this really dirty, seedy town and like a gladiatorial style arena and fight situation. It's crazy. It's a real journey. There are a lot of the same themes of acceptance and letting yourself love and be loved, but we have more of an adventure as opposed to staying in Arkenhold like Paladin's Grace. The final book that I've read so far in the series is Paladin's Hope. This is book 3. It is much smaller than the others. This is our shortest book. I've seen some people call it an interlude and not necessarily as connected to the others. I couldn't disagree more. I think this is right in line with everything else and such an important part of the series at large. We have Paladin Galen this time and Lich Dr. Piper, who we first met in Paladin's Grace. The Lich Doctor is basically like a coroner. It all starts out with Knoll City Guard Earstripe, who has found several bodies that, while they've died differently, they've died also in similarly weird circumstances, if that makes sense. Like their bodies are all similarly injured, let's say. And Earstripe starts to connect all of these bodies to perhaps one killer, but his higher ups on the guard don't want to listen to him. They don't really see what Earstripe is seeing. He's been accompanied by Paladin Galen, and then Lich Dr. Piper has shown up to all of the scenes of these murders. So they all three kind of have this relationship. When Earstripe leaves the guard to do his own investigation, these two come with him. They leave the city of Arkenhold and are plunged into the maze of a murderous psycho, the killer of all of these people, and have to escape. It is a really interesting but wild ride. Galen and Piper grow a lot closer. They build a connection that will far outlast their time in the maze, and Earstripe is like my favorite new character. The journey in this one was a little more heart-wrenching for me, but the epilogue revealed something that I'm really hoping to get more clarity on in Paladin's Faith, because it really blew my mind. I had to take a few days to like sit with it before I could even write my full review. Finishing Paladin's Hope brought me down to 345 books on the physical TBR, and the next up is obviously going to be Paladin's Faith. This is actually centering Marguerite from Paladin's Grace. I'm so excited to see her again. And then we have Paladin Shane. I don't know a lot about Shane. He's been brought up here and there. We know about him, but I don't like know him yet. I would like to start this today, tomorrow. I don't know, we'll see, but I'll be back to you very soon with my update on this one. I cannot wait. Bye. I have finished 3 more books, so let me show you what they are. First, and hopefully no surprise, Paladin's Faith by T. Kingfisher. This is book 4 in the Saints of Steel series. I love this world. I love this series. This is the last book that is currently out. Apparently it's slotted for 7 books. But I've seen some conflicting reports stating that the series is on hold from the publisher, but I've also seen some reports that she's working on the next book. I don't know, but I need more of them. I need the series to at least be completed up to the 7 books and maybe even beyond if she decides to grab Paladins from different places, perhaps. Maybe not all Saints of Steel, but we'll see. I loved it. It is, like I said, book 4, so I don't want to go into a lot of detail about plot because I feel like the way these books are written, they're not interconnected standalones, which I think is so much the norm in a lot of what I read. So I'm really used to interconnected standalones where like, oh yeah, they all play into each other, but you can totally read them separate. I feel like these are really building and they're creating a much wider plot for the wider world. So it's difficult to go into detail. I will say we have Marguerite as our female main character. We first met her in Paladin's Grace as she was Grace's landlord and like best friend. But Marguerite's also a spy. And we have Shane as one of her bodyguards. He is a paladin from the former Saint of Steel, and Ren, who is also a paladin. And they are supposed to be her bodyguards on this journey situation. And they get into all sorts of tomfoolery and nonsense. And then Marguerite and Shane, like, you know, they fall in love. Shane, this is saying a lot. I feel like Shane has got to be our angstiest and most earnest, possibly, paladin that we've met so far. And like I said, that is saying a lot because these men are a little angsty. Okay, but it was so good. I really enjoyed it. I thought their dynamic was really interesting and fun. I thought Shane would be a little more like Istvan, like he would come out of his shell and be a little more, not forceful, but you know, like more of a presence, but he kind of wasn't. Like he kind of just defers to Marguerite in all things. And I actually liked that a little bit more. So it's a good time, 5 stars. There were some pacing, I don't want to say issues, like interruptions for me around a little past the midway point, I would say. And I couldn't quite understand where things were going or how they were going to work out, which is fine. Like that's not a dig. That's not a con to these books at all. But that's one thing I would say. It's still 5 stars. They're all going to be 5 stars. I don't really care. They're just all going to be 5 stars. I cannot recommend the world enough. And if you have not dipped your toe into this world at all, I would recommend the Clock Tower duology first, which is the Clockwork Boys, and I can never remember the second one. It's not that important. Read those 2 books, then read Sword Heart, and then jump into these. I think that's the preferred order. I didn't do any of that. I still haven't read The Clockwork Boys. Or why can I never remember that second book? It's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. Just read them, okay? Please, promise. Just read them. This might be the quickest turnaround I've had in recent history, and it was not very good. I expected, silly me, I thought this would be about a boy and his relationship with a dinosaur that he's trying to do right by, and it just freaking wasn't. If someone had said, hey, this is about a young man who is like struggling with identity and his place in the world, and there's like a dinosaur rodeo that features like this much in it, I would have been like, oh, well, that's cool, but probably not for me. I like dinosaurs. I like dinosaurs in a heavily dinosaur capacity. A dinosaur rodeo? Freaking sign me up. But that's not what we got here. Where were the dinosaurs? Where are the turtles? I am going to rant a little bit. I am so sick of books with wolf in the title and like a wolf on the cover, and it's about some woman's journey through grief. I get it. We need books like that. Don't sell me an animal when there's no freaking animals. I just love animals. I love dinosaurs. I love eels. This is the book of eels all over again. Where were the dinosaurs? That's it. That's all. I think I gave this under 2 stars because I was really honestly just like so frustrated. And I'm not keeping it. Okay, now that my little rant is out of the way, I did finish this morning. It's A Code of 1,000 Furs by Brandi Gann, an independently published fairy tale retelling of a fairy tale I've never heard of, but it's a Brother Grimm's tale. So when I get to the Brothers Grimm, hopefully this will ring a bell. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. It ends abruptly, however, and I don't know where I can get book 2. Okay, I don't know where I can get it. I got this at an alpaca farm outside of Chattanooga. And I would like to finish it to have, again, like some completion to the story because this just ends abruptly. But I don't know where to get it. It's not on Amazon. There is no ebook format that I can find, and I don't see that the author has a website. I don't really know what I'm supposed to do except drive up to the alpaca farm and buy book 2. I think because it was independently published, it could have used a little tidying up from an editor, some spelling, some grammar, some maybe just polishing up just like the way certain things were worded. But I did enjoy it and I would like to know what happens, but I'm not buying books right now. And I'm definitely not going to drive to Chattanooga to buy book 2 unless I'm already in the area, maybe. But I'm a little frustrated that it's so hard to find the next one because I would like to know what happens. And beyond any like spelling issues and things like that, I did find the story intriguing. So this is like maybe 3.25 stars for me on Fable. I think that's what I gave it. That feels right. Like I said, I had a good time, but where's the rest of it? How do I finish it? Oh, and this is one from my winter TBR, so I'm super excited to have one more off that list. Finishing A Code of a Thousand Furs, that puts me at 342 books on the physical TBR, which means I could enter March with 330 or fewer books on my physical TBR, which feels amazing. Which also makes me think, should I go for 300 before I allow myself to bring in new books? Like, should that be the next goal? Because while I so deeply want to buy books, I always want to buy books, I'm enjoying this. It's building a lot of momentum and it's showing me just how much I really do actually read when I'm not constantly fighting the tide of new books coming in. So I can see real progress and it feels very good. With that in mind, I am a little spastic, sporadic, all over the place with my reading, and I would very much like to complete my winter TBR. There are only 6 books left on that TBR, and they're actually right here. I took off everything else that wasn't just those books so that they could be right in front of me. And then I've really been thinking about series that I started but haven't finished yet. Specifically where there's like 1 book left or there's 1 book out right now that I just haven't finished. But I did look at my shelf and just grab a few that are calling to me right now, ones that I've been thinking about a lot anyway, or that at least came out very recently that have been in the front of my mind, and just put those aside as like these 5 could also be potential next books in your mood reading pool. I would like to finish In Your Dreams by Sarah Adams. This is book 4 in a series. There will be no more books, so this would tidy it up. I have The Do-Over and The Casanova by T.L. Swan. I think The Casanova is book 3 and The Do-Over is book 4. I read the first 2 books in that series a couple of years ago and I did really like them. These are part of, I think it's called the Miles High series, and it's 4 brothers. So I think I could finish these quite quickly as well, and that would wrap up that series. Brigands and Breadknives, I've been dying to finish this since it came out back in November, and I just haven't had the time or the capacity to really get into it. I don't think this is the final book, but it is the most recently out at this time, and so I'd really like to be caught up. And last up in that little pool of series started is Wagons and Wyverns. This is by Z.S. Diamanti, and I read the first book in this Fables of Finlestia series. I think book 3 is slated to come out sometime this year, so I would just like to be caught up. It's not the last book, but it's 1 book, and it would get me current in a series. So I'm trying to make these little baby steps where I can, and have like a cleaner profile, and then go into the larger series like the Thursday Murder Club series where I read the first book. I have the next 3. I think there's 1 more after that, and I would really like to complete those series. That wraps it all up. We are at 342 books on the physical TBR as of today, and I think the next book I'm going to jump into is Madhouse at the End of the Earth. I'm still chasing that nonfiction feeling, and I wish I had a science nonfiction that I could dive into, but this is on the winter TBR and I'm hoping it will fill that void for now. Bye! I didn't expect to be doing another update so soon, but I finished Madhouse at the End of the Earth yesterday, and ever since I just haven't been able to stop thinking about it. It's had me in a chokehold. I've been trying to finish In Your Dreams by Sarah Adams, and I get a chapter here or there, but it's just not, like, nothing is sticking. I'm like, no one is fighting for their life or discovering new forms of lichen or blowing things up. So what is the point? I really loved this. I gave this 5 stars. I have kind of a better, more detailed review on Fable because every time I've tried to speak about this, I just go on and on and on, and that's not what these little short clips are supposed to be. So I know I've spoken about it before, probably most recently my winter TBR, because this is a winter TBR book. It is about a Belgian aristocrat who embarks on an exploration of Antarctica in hopes of being, well, his dream is to be the first person at the magnetic South Pole. Things kind of from the jump, I mean, just from trying to organize this whole trip, things are messy, and it's easy to say with some hindsight that maybe this was not the best planned expedition. Things could have gone better. Things could have been thought through a little more thoroughly, but it is a great book. There is struggle, there's strife, obviously, but there's also this bit of hope and even excitement about what these men were trying to accomplish. I'm surprised at how few casualties there were, honestly. I thought we were going to have like 3 or 4 survivors, but really almost everybody made it back home, even if they were maybe not quite the same after. This reminded me a lot of The River of Doubt by, I think it's Candace Millard. She wrote about Teddy Roosevelt's adventure in this uncharted Amazonian river. And really all I kept thinking is how he never mentally, emotionally, and physically recovered from that exploration, from that journey, adventure. And I felt a lot of that here as well. Like I said, I highly recommend it. And I think my review on Fable is more thoughtful, but every time I go to talk about it, I just get really like worked up. And I thought it was so great. I thought it was really amazing. I kind of want to read it already again. And I think it's funny, on the back it says, as soon as you finish, you want to read it again. And that's like a blurb from the Daily Mail. That's exactly how I felt when I finished it. I loved the pictures as well. The physician on board, who's actually this man, Friedrich Cook, he took like all of these photographs really of the ship like stuck in the pack ice here. These are all his photos. And not only was he great for documenting this journey in the capacity that he did, these are like some of the scientists here, an engineer melting snow and ice for drinking water. It's very interesting, but you can tell that the author has this soft spot for Dr. Cook, and the reader can feel that, because then you start to develop also that soft spot for him as well. And I don't know, I really liked it. I now really, really want to know more about each of these individuals, what they went on to do, what they did before this. Like, again, Dr. Cook has some polar exploration under his belt before this journey, and a lot of the men actually say that if he weren't there, they would not have survived. He is responsible for so much of the survival on this voyage. So it was really great. I cannot recommend it enough. If you like nonfiction, but you're afraid that it's dry, things like this, so much action, so much personality comes through on the page. It was really an exciting read. Like I said, that was a book for my winter TBR, and then obviously just my physical TBR, so that puts me down to 341. I have started In Your Dreams by Sarah Adams. It is here. I think I'm not even to the halfway point. I like it, but it's kind of hard to jump from Madhouse to this. We'll see where we end up, but like I said, 341, next update should be this, unless things go awry. Bye. I've not done one of these in many, many, many days. I have 3 books to show you. I think the last book I talked about would have been Madhouse at the End of the Earth, and I think that put me at 341. It'll be here as usual. And I can't stop thinking about that book. I don't even remember what I said about it, because I was having so much trouble like condensing all of my thoughts into a reasonable review. And I just really enjoyed it so much. I think about it all the time. I definitely will be reading it again. But since then, I have finished 3 books. I'm going to show them to you. It's been quite a while, and all of these were really quick reads for me. So the first up is Brigands and Breadknives. I'm going to hold it like this so there's no glare. I enjoyed this so much. We have Fern again, who we actually met for the first time in Bookshops and Bone Dust. She owned the bookshop in Merck, where Viv was kind of recuperating from her injury, and I really liked Fern. She's very foul-mouthed. She has a lot of sass, and she was suffering from some ennui. She was not really happy in her life anymore, and she thought, I'll change my scenery and I will move to Thune, where my friend Viv has set up a coffee shop, and maybe that will give me the burst of life that I need, like that good feeling. It'll bring me back to myself. And what happens is Fern does move, and she has her little moment of fixing up her shop and opening the doors, and it's successful, but she's still missing something. During a drunken night, Fern finds herself as a stowaway in a cart. The cart happens to belong to a legendary warrior who is on a quest, and so Fern joins in on that quest. The characters in this were perfect. I'm going to say this about probably all of these books. I could have taken 50 to 100 more pages. Maybe I could have taken like 75 to 100 more pages. I just wanted more of this. I love this world, and I love the characters that Travis creates. If you're more of an audiobook person, Travis actually narrates all of the audiobooks, I found out. So I did listen partially to this one as well. Very good. I believe I gave this 4.75 stars. I hope he keeps writing these in this world. I love them. They make me feel so happy and cozy. And this one was more adventure than we've gotten before. And I really enjoyed that too. The knife is cracking me up. It's just a really good time. I would highly recommend it. The next book I finished was In Your Dreams by Sarah Adams. This is a series ender for the When in Rome series. I liked it. As the final book in a series, I was expecting a really good epilogue, like maybe a 5 years down the road epilogue, seeing what everybody's up to. We got none of that. And this is a very slow burn. I think this is more about self-discovery than a romance. There is romance, but it is the slowest of slow burns. And it certainly took up way less of the plot than both of these characters sort of almost like coming to grips with who they are as individuals. I did not dislike it. I'm just really disappointed that there was no epilogue, bonus chapter, anything like that. It was just like, this is it. And maybe I've been spoiled with epilogues, but I felt like this one really deserved something. I gave this 3.75 stars, maybe 4. I can't remember. I'll definitely be keeping it with the rest of the series. I just feel like for the end of a series, this deserved a little something at the end. And the final book I finished was Agnes Aubert's Mystical Cat Shelter. I gave this 4.25 or 4.5 stars on Fable. I cannot remember, and I haven't given a full review there yet because I just finished it last night. I really enjoyed it. I had a great time with this. Again, could have used another like 75 to 100 pages. I wanted to know more about the magic system and world. I would have just liked more explanations, more backstory, more history. I would have gladly read 100 more pages. This is obviously about Agnes, who owns a cat shelter. It's not mystical at the time that we meet Agnes, but she is forced to move buildings when magicians destroy her whole neighborhood, and she can no longer stay in the building that she's currently in. A lack of funds leads her to kind of a less reputable area. She ends up in a building that's owned by a very world-renowned magician. He is also said to be exceptionally dangerous and like a bad magician, but he's really not dark. He's kind of grouchy, but otherwise just wants to be left alone. So it turns out that her cat shelter is like a front for his magical shop that he's operating in the like basement or lower floors of this building that Agnes is in. He's also allergic to cats, which I think is freaking hilarious because she's got like 50 of them. The animosity between the two is really funny, really almost like sweet how much they rub against each other, and it takes them a while to realize that they actually kind of like each other. It was a really good time. I loved all the cats. I love that we get to learn so much about these individual cats and their personalities and what they look like and where she found this one, and it was just a lot of fun. But again, I could have just used a little more of that magical world. Why is the magic the way it is? Why is Havelock the way he is? What are the longer term consequences of using magic the way that they are using magic? Like I could have used more, but all around it was a great book. I just love a hardcover with no dust jacket, so I'm super excited to have this. And now she can go on the shelf with Emily Wilde. Finishing Agnes puts me at 338 books, so I'm under the 340 mark. I'm so excited. My mom is gifting me a book, which she just ended up with 2 copies of the same book, and it's a book that I'm going to read eventually, so she's going to give it to me, so that will be added probably in the next update. But 338 feels really good right now. I'm not sure what my next TBR book will be, but I'll let you know as soon as I finish one. Bye! I'm going to try to do this update a little bit rapid fire because I have like so many books to talk about. So first up, I think I mentioned in my last update that my mom was going to be gifting me a book, and that is Kilt Trip. We both picked up Scott and Bothered when we went to the Eagle Eye sale earlier this year. So she had ordered this, which is actually the book that's before Scott and Bothered, but she did pick up 2 copies of this. I think one was lost and then eventually turned up. So whatever, she gave it to me because I'm obviously going to read Scott and Bothered at some point. So this does bring me to 339, but I have finished a few books as well. So first up, I finished Wagons and Wyverns. This is about Zarni, who is going to be mapping a new territory, but he is also really struggling with who he was in his past and trying to like create a new life for himself with the stigma and like prejudices that that old job came with. He was compelled into it, but it's like, it's a whole thing. He has a lot of anxiety. He has this great friendship with Wagoner Tobin, who we met in the first book. I just really like their dynamic. I think the friendship is so fun to read about. And then there are some creatures. We have a horned marten, which, I mean, I love anything in the marten family, stoats, weasels, all of them. And then we have a little wyvern from the wyvern thing. Oh, and also this guy, a total pill, love him. It was a great time. I would highly recommend the whole series. I'm really looking forward to Assassins in the Ale House. I think that's the next one that's coming out. And I think these books honestly just sort of feel like a hug. They just feel really good to read. The characters are so great. There's not a whole lot of high stakes things going on, but there is some adventure and the friendship. Oh, it's just so sweet. It's so sweet. I was so excited to start The Last Tale of the Flower Bride. I thought it was going to be like a Bluebeard retelling, but as the wife is Bluebeard and the husband as whatever. It wasn't. I think I got about close to 50% of the way through, not quite halfway. And I just didn't know what was going on, and I did not care enough about anyone in this story to keep going. So I did DNF it, and I don't know, the whole thing just felt like a weird fever dream. I have not thought about it since I stopped reading it, and I think that is a good sign of this was just not the one for me, and we're going to move past it. And the final finished book for this update is going to be Behind the Net by Stephanie Archer. This was just okay for me. It wasn't spectacular, fantastic, groundbreaking. It is a rom-com. I would say this was more heavily spiced than anything I've read recently or I'm used to reading, and it felt like kind of like filler in certain situations. Like the book could have maybe even been 50 pages shorter if you didn't have this. It didn't add to the plot. Let's just put it that way. It did not add to the plot. It was pure entertainment, if that's what you're looking for. And I know I said this is a rom-com, but it was very cheesy. I like the nickname that he gave her, but he kept using it so much, and I just felt like I started to hate it. I know it sounds like I did not like this book. I did. It was fun. It was fine. It was like very light, easy breezy. But I want to see where the rest of the series goes before I decide if I'm going to keep these books or not. If the rest of the series is bomb, I'm going to keep them all. If the rest of the series is just okay, like I don't see myself ever reading this again. And if that's the case with all of them, they're just going to move along. I'm really trying to keep only things that I absolutely adore. So finishing Behind the Net brings me to 336 as my total TBR. I think one of my goals for the beginning of the month was like to get under 330 in February. I was delulu. But I have started book 2 in that Vancouver Storm series, which is The Fake Out, and it's fake dating, and I love fake dating. I like fake dating, A Marriage of Convenience, and Enemies, and she hates him. So you kind of get both the fake dating and the enemies to lovers. So I don't know, we'll see. I have high hopes for this one. So that's everything since my last update. Hopefully the next one, which will be like my final wrap up, I will have finished those other 2 Vancouver Storm books. Like, keep your fingers crossed for me. Let's see if I can do it. Okay, bye. All right, we've made it to the end of February, and this is my final update for the month. I did finish both books that I was hoping to finish, which were The Fake Out and The Wingman, both by Stephanie Archer, both in the Vancouver Storm series. So first off, I finished The Fake Out. Obviously, it's book 2. I really enjoyed it, and I feel like it gave me the confidence that I was a little bit lacking from book 1 to continue with the series. I really enjoyed both characters. The female main character is Hazel, who is the sister of Pippa, who's our main character in book 1. And where Pippa felt maybe like not so fully formed as a character, Hazel is who she is, and you can kind of see where she's coming from, what her motivations would be, why she does certain things certain ways, and you understand who she is as a character. And I really appreciated that. Rory is 3 books in, still my favorite male main character. He was the best. He is very unlikable in the first book, but things shift and you understand his motivations more and his personality. And I just enjoyed this so much more than book 1. And it has me so excited for the rest of the series. And then I did also finish book 3, which is The Wingman. Loved this one too. So good. I didn't say, but on that second book, The Fake Out, I gave that 4.25 stars. I did the same for The Wingman. I just finished it this morning and I really enjoyed it. I will say one thing about these books, this series in particular, is the spice level. It's a little higher than what I'm used to, and I don't want to say it feels shoehorned in. In the first book, it felt like it was a bit more of a plot device than actually having a plot, but the farther I get into this series, I'm like, oh, okay, they're just going to be a little spice heavy, and I kind of zone out. I just sort of go on airplane mode and zone out until something is happening. Another feature of this series that I am absolutely loving is there are no third act breakups. This author is really, really great about adding conflict, adding trouble outside of the relationship, so we don't have the third act breakup to put our couple like on the back foot. There's other things going on, and I really appreciate that. I always say that you can create conflict without a third act breakup, and this author does it really nicely. Another thing that I always feel about romance books, especially since I started reading them more regularly, is that they're very easily dismissed. It's a very easily dismissed genre, and something that I really appreciate about romance books is not the far-fetched nature, is not the unrealistic type stuff. It is the seeing parts of your own relationship or seeing aspects of your own partner in the actions of other characters in these books. And I think it's good for people to see that, even more so than seeing the sort of dreamy, unrealistic millionaire hockey player, you know, taking care of you for the rest of your life. It's good to see those moments that also ring true in reality. And that is something I've really been enjoying about this series in particular, and romance, rom-coms as a genre on the whole. I think at the beginning of this month I was at 347, but I forgot a pre-order, which dinged me up to 348. And then my mom gifted me a book. So I'm gonna set the starting numbers 349 just so we have a base. I did finish 15 TBR books. So I'm ending February with 334 books. That is just under 4.5% of the TBR we started with at the beginning of the month. I know that I was hopeful that I could get under 330 in February, but that was not the case. I'm still really, really happy with these numbers, and I cannot wait to see what March has in store for us. There are a lot of pre-orders coming out. I still have a lot of arcs, and now I really want to finish the Vancouver Storm series. So for now, I'm going to leave February there. I feel really good about how this month shook out and how much reading I was able to get done, even though it was a busy month. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.